And this, honestly, guys, is super ridiculously important. Anyone who tries to write a novel without understanding this concept is basically, like, in big trouble. Like, there's no way it would happen for you. So, make sure this is the only thing on your screen. We're actually going to start with the video and focus so that you're thinking about your novel and this word and how they would work together.
A subplot is a secondary plot or storyline that coexists with the main story. Subplots are often a part of novels, short stories, plays, movies, and television shows. Many romantic comedies today involve a love story in which two characters find their way to each other, break apart after something bad happens, and then reunite right before the movie ends. But let's say this love story has the added bonus of a quirky best friend who works with the female lead and is constantly setting her up with all of the wrong guys. This subplot, or minor story, adds to the overall story. Subplots add depth and complexity to stories and thereby increase the tension, which is a state of increased interest and uncertainty about the events in the story. Subplot also shows different sides of the characters, thereby engaging the reader or audience member even more. William Shakespeare often included many subplots in his plays. For example, Romeo and Juliet follows the love story between the two title characters. The subplot of the long-standing rivalry between their two families, the Montagues and the Capulets, unfolds to increase conflict and add to the drama of these young lovers' forbidden romance.
Okay, we'll stop right here. And then there's just a few things I want to say. So subplot, the idea is not that tough. It makes sense. To actually do one can be a little bit weird the first time you try. But look in the examples box. I think a lot of us have seen movies that have subplots. So raise your hand if you've seen Lilo and Stitch. Like everyone, right? Lilo and Stitch is one of my favorites. So you have Lilo, obviously. There's the story of her meeting Stitch and them having all sorts of adventures and hijinks, right? But if you remember, there's the Alien Federation, right? Remember the aliens who are then trying to kind of like intervene and get Stitch back? That's the subplot. And that's how you get a like movie-length story. Or in your case, it's going to be a novel-length story. You really should be considering, basically think of it as a story within a story. That's the definition, right? So that subplots are secondary stories woven in throughout the main plot. So same in Holes, which is obviously the picture, right? We've got Stanley Yelnats, the kid who gets sent to camp, but you also have the subplot of his no good, dirty, rotten, pig-stealing great-great-grandfather, but also the subplot of Kissing Kate Barlow. And so, again, I highly recommend that all of you be thinking about what could be at least one subplot in my novel. And if not one, honestly, guys, when I'm writing, I usually end up having 3, 4, or 5. Sometimes they're really little, sometimes they're a bigger subplot. But that's going to be my number one piece of advice. It will happen that you will tell me, Mrs. Coates, I'm stuck. I don't know what else to write. And I'm going to say, subplot! That's always going to be my first piece of advice. Same in Finding Nemo. You've got Nemo in the fish tank with all of the Australian fish, right? But then you have Marlin and Dory trying to find him. Those subplots, they work together. So the sentence, obviously, they make stories longer. You cannot write a novel without a subplot. And look at the second sentence, because it's a trick of how to do a subplot. Think of minor characters, right? You've got your protagonist. Your subplot might be focused on the antagonist. Or maybe your subplot is focused on a background character. There's tons of options. And then the non-examples is actually extra examples, so look really carefully. Some kids don't know how to do a subplot, and that's fair. A lot of times for me, it's just a flashback. So I signal a subplot with a flashback. It could be chapters. Raise your hand if you've ever read a chapter where one chapter is one character's perspective and the next chapter is a different character's perspective. That's my favorite method. That's usually how I do it, and I think that's the easiest way. And then for those of you who had me in 6th grade, the triple asterisk method is another thing I do a lot. When you do a triple asterisk in the middle of the page, it's telling the reader, hey, I'm about to do something totally different. And so you could have a triple asterisk and have your little story of your subplot, and then another triple asterisk at the end to then transition back to your main plot. So everybody think of your U-Try box. Give me an example. And specifically think about your NaNoWriMo. So in the U-Try box, tell me a possible subplot for your idea. And if you don't have an idea for your story, then think of a movie that I didn't already list. Awesome. And then I have more stuff, but give me like 3 more minutes. I'm just going to sit tight for a second. Okay, so think about that you try box. Anyone have an example they want to share? And it's okay if not. Okay, Steele. Okay. Exactly. Yep. And again, like most TV series, every movie, every novel, they have subplots. Yeah, that's a good one.